Good afternoon. This is Kim Bobo.
Wait for the onion light at the top.
Okay. Good afternoon. This is Kim Bobo, your host with Good Works Chicago. We are the weekly show on Tuesday afternoons that interviews ethical employers who are finding ways to pay people fairly, and that interviews activists who are trying to raise standards for all workers in society. And today we are really excited about having Teresa Ging of the Bliss Cake Shop Boutique, the Sugar Bliss Cake Boutique. Have I got it right now?
Yes.
All righty. We're excited to learn about the history of this shop, but also all about how she pays people and how she thinks about paying people. So, Teresa, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So first, tell me how long you've been in business and how did you happen to go into the cupcake business?
Oh, thanks. Well, I have started Sugar Bliss about 7 years ago. I had a background in finance, did that for about 6 years.
Wait, I heard you went to the University of Chicago.
Yes, correct.
Okay, you don't think of University of Chicago grads doing cupcakes, so go ahead, explain the history on this.
Yeah, so I went to Chicago, graduated with an econ stat major, did finance for about 6 years, left the finance industry to go to pastry school at Le Cordon Bleu in Paris. Did that for about a couple months. When I came back to Chicago, just kind of pursued a dream of opening a bake shop in the downtown Loop area. And so I looked for retail spaces and started business planning my idea. And then I opened Sugar Bliss in January of 2009.
So at first when you started, were you like by yourself or did you have employees? How did you think about the staffing of it?
I was primarily by myself. I did have someone to come help when we had like certain events or larger orders before I opened the store. But once I opened the store, I started out with about 4 bakers and about 4 people at front, counter staff. So we had about 8 people on staff when I first started.
Wow, that's a lot to begin with, 8 staff. So how did you think about how you were going to pay people?
Well, definitely, when you're a startup business, you don't have a lot of income coming in yet. So I had to pay everyone the minimum wage. And I believe at that time it was probably $7.25 or $7.50. And so, I had to pay everyone minimum wage, to start off. But I did tell my employees that, eventually I do want to pay you higher. It's just that, we're a startup business, and so they all understood. And I think it was kind of exciting, being part of a startup business. So within about three months, I was able to increase all my bakers up, 50 cents. And then I kept every 6 months increasing their wages to the point that now they're significantly above the minimum wage.
Wow. So, and tell me, had you ever worked in like a low-wage job yourself? Did you have any knowledge of kind of what conditions are like for a lot of workers?
When I was in college, I did work in retail. For a big retail clothing corporation, I think I was making $5 an hour. At that time, you're in college, so you don't have you're going to school as well. So, but that was probably, my first time ever knowing about wages that were, not really livable, $5 an hour.
Not really
No.
livable. That's right. That's right. So tell me so you initially recruited this group of 8 workers, paid them just minimum wage initially, but then you started building up wages for all your workers so people would get into more modest wages.
Right.
And tell me, what did you think about benefits, or how did you do that at the beginning, and then how has that changed over your 6-year history?
Right. So the first, we did pay minimum wage. I noticed that a lot. I'm in the restaurant industry, and I noticed a lot of times people don't take break time, and so I wanted to do a paid break. So my workers at different time. If you work 5 to 7 hours or 5 hours. 5 to 6 hours, you get a 15-minute break, and then 6 to 8 hours, you get a 30-minute paid break. So, it's time for them to recharge. So, I mean, that could add anywhere from, $4 and up to their, salary. And then that was kind of like the first benefit, and then also increasing we do reviews every 6 months. So every review, it's a great time for me to touch base with my employees to see what they want to accomplish, what they need to improve, and also to reward employees that have done well. So we do that every 6 months. Within the first, my goal was to increase their wages. So that was kind of my first focus for the first 2 years. And then after the second year, I noticed a lot of my employees were still under their parents' health care, but some weren't. And so, it's really important to keep, healthy, especially in the restaurant industry. So, I offer healthcare, dental, and vision, and we pay 50%, and they pay 50%. And this is even before the Affordable Health Care Act was in place. And, we are under 50 employees, so we were able to even offer that, even though it's not mandatory for us. The other thing that we offer is paid sick time to the manager levels. It's like paid sick time, vacation, personal time. And then this last year we offered retirement benefits. So we pay, they put money away and we match a percentage of it. And then also one of my longest employee who's been there since the beginning, is starting to think about having a family. And so, I wanted to provide maternity leave for her, paid maternity leave. So, I'm always trying to think of ways to increase, benefits for my employees.
And why do you do that? Why? I mean, in the restaurant industry, there's a lot of really low road employers who do the absolute minimum. And you've made some choices to try to pay people better, try to create some benefits for people. Like, why?
I definitely think, just being an ethical employer, I see my employees as more of like family. I care about their well-being, so that's part of the reason. On a business standpoint, my employees do stay longer. I have a pastry chef who started at the very beginning as a baker, head baker, kitchen manager, now pastry chef. She's been there for now 6 years. I always joke with her. I'm like, "Are you gonna leave one day?" And she's like, "No, never." And so it's great to have that loyalty. I have managers up front that have been with me, 4+ years. So having lower turnover, is also an additional benefit besides, doing something right.
Well, a lot of employers, particularly in the restaurant and retail sectors, really don't do the right thing. They not only don't try to do better, but they cheat and steal wages from workers, which is why we have a wage theft clinic that meets on a regular basis. If you happen to be owed wages, I would urge you to call 773-391-8885. This is our wage theft hotline. They can help you recover wages that might have been taken from you unfairly. So if you haven't been paid the minimum wage, haven't been paid overtime, had to work through your breaks, if you lost a job and didn't get your last paycheck, all of those are common problems in restaurants and retail. So please call our wage theft hotline. So tell me more about sort of how you work with these employees to make sure that they get adequate training as well, so that they can improve.
So every, kind of what I learned in the corporate world was, every 6 months we do reviews. And it was good for me to see where I was compared to my peers and where I could grow, and where I could move on my career path. So, I kind of used that best practice and instilled it in my business. So every 6 months I meet with my employees. There's, a self-assessment that they do before the review, on like how they rate themselves on either, taking orders, customer service. For bakers, it's, are you making the batters right? Are you, doing things efficiently, stuff like that. So it's kind of a good, for both of us, for them to go, am I doing things as best as I can?
Right.
And then also as an employer, it's great to know, well, my employee wants to, do this more. They want more responsibility. They want to be more creative, and like maybe we could do this line of products. So it's great, to have those 6-month reviews. Mm-hmm. I know that it's not that common in a lot of restaurants, but I find it very helpful. And it's also, and it's also a way for me to reward, employees that have shown, growth in that 6-month period, or where I can say, hey, you're almost to that manager or assistant manager level. Like, these are the things that you need to improve or work on to become that manager level. So I think it gives my employees something to, excel in.
As you think about sort of the next 5 years or the next 10 years and the growth of Sugar Bliss, what do you think are the other kinds of things that you might want to offer to workers? What other kind of things are people interested in? What have you been thinking about in your dream world? Now, I'm not going to hold you to it, right? But just, I'm just interested in what you're thinking about.
Yeah, I mean, I think, being in business for about 6 years now, I think I've offered a lot. I'm always, thinking of ways like what I was offered in corporate world that I could offer to my staff. So I feel like I'm at that point. I'm sure there's something that, like this year I was able to offer maternity leave, like
yes.
Last year 401k, so, this is stuff that, I never tell like businesses straight off the bat, like, your startup, you need to, it's a gradual thing that I think that, you can do, and it can, help build, good employees, morale and everything. But I'm always open to like other benefits. That's a good question. I probably should think of what I should do for 2015.
Well, there's been a lot of conversation recently about both the efforts here in Illinois and federally to raise the minimum wage. And how will that affect you and your business if the minimum wage is raised to $10.10, or in Chicago even $13, right?
I definitely think that, currently 80% of my employees are above the $10 range. So, it's more or less for people that are like entry level or that have a part-time position. It's nothing that's undoable. So, at the $10 mark, at the $13 mark, I think right now the minimum wage is at $8.25.
Yes.
So going from $8.25 to $13 is going to be a big jump. I'm pretty sure it's going to be a gradual thing. But I think if it's a gradual thing over like a 5-year period, I think that businesses can adjust and plan ahead. So I think it's doable. When I first did open my business, it was at $7.25, and that was 2009, and it went up a quarter, I think, for 3 years after that. But it hasn't gone up since. Right. I know that the tipped minimum wage hasn't gone up since 20 plus years. So I think that's a big focus. We are the non-tip wages, but I think if businesses know, if there's a good structure of it, that it's a 5-year plan, I think businesses can adjust prices or adjust so that they are ready, prepared for it.
Again, if you work for an employer and are not paid the minimum wage, which in Illinois is $8.25 an hour right now, do call our wage theft hotline at 773-391-8885 for assistance in recovering those wages. So, as you know, restaurants and retail companies are notorious, really, for not paying people fairly, for cheating people, for, asking people to clock out and then, keep working or come in and set up for a half hour and then clock in, or so what do you think can be done in the sectors at large? What can we do to have more conversations among business owners and try and stop some of this wage theft that's going on?
I definitely think it's great that you guys have a clinic that, people can go to. It's hard to believe that there's so much either, clocking in or out, and you're still working or being paid not overtime when you're working more than 40 hours a week, or not getting paid above the tip minimum wage if the gap and stuff. So it's hard to believe that happens, and it's sad that it happens, but it's great that there's a way that employees can go to that. I think that it's more of like awareness that needs to be, when I first started my business as a restaurant, I never knew that this happened until I got introduced to all this that was going on. And I think that just, awareness, legislation that needs to be passed on, what to do to, not have this happen, overall, I think that that's great that there is a way for employees to come to you to talk about this.
But are there like business associations or roundtables? Are these issues ever talked about?
There is the Restaurant Opportunity Center that they do.
They do great work.
Yeah, they do great work. So they do have like ways for employees to talk about it, training, and they have national in a lot of different cities and stuff. And it's also just letting the people in DC know what's going on. So I know this is not a big topic that always gets talked about, but it does need to be talked more about. For me, it's hard to believe that there's this flex time where if you're not, like, some days if there's too many people on staff, they cut you and stuff like that. Like, I could never, if I staffed my employees like that, I couldn't keep straight what's going on. And every week, we have a set schedule. Monday, the same people come, the same hours a week. Tuesday, the same people. And, if it's a slow day, it's a slow day. They'll find some kind of busy work, but I know that they have bills to pay. They depend on those, that 4-hour shift or 8-hour shift. Just because it's slow, you can't just cut them. And I know some businesses they overstaff, and then if it is slow, they cut, or they tell them, an hour ahead. I don't know there needs to be some kind of way that, like, if that happens, you still have to pay the employees up to X amount. So, I think there's like baby steps. I think minimum wage is like the focus right now. I know that paid sick days too. I offer my manager level, paid sick time. And as a small business, I try to do as much as I can do. I know some of the larger businesses sometimes don't even do that, and it's hard to believe because they have more revenue that's going in. But I think small businesses do need to see how they can do this, that can help them keep some of their really loyal employees. It's great that I've been able to keep a lot of my staff. Lower turnover is great, so that you don't have to, training takes a lot of time and energy, and it's great that I've had, it's not as much turnover. And when people come in asking for hiring, I wish I could say I'm hiring, but because my employee, I think we hire maybe a couple times a year, and it's just because we have so many great employees that do stay. And I think it does have to do with the benefits, the culture, the environment.
And I sure would think that your customer service, that you could feel it when people walk in the store. At least when I walked in your store, there was just a nice feel, and the staff were so friendly and welcoming, and they were happy. You could tell people felt good about being there, and that's got to affect people who come into the store.
Yeah, I definitely think that how a lot of my employees, I see a lot of my employees as like family members, and I care. Like I had an employee yesterday that was running late because her dog was sick, and I was like, you got to take care of what you need to take care of, whether it's a dog or a family member or something, we'll get it covered. Or I had a manager that has the flu, and so everyone kind of pulls together to cover shifts, or we all work together. Like tomorrow I have one of my managers out sick, and someone's coming in later, I'm working her shift. Like everyone pulls together. So I think that when you have that great environment, people work as a team. When you don't, like when employees feel like they're getting shafted on like wages or whatever, promotions or whatever, and you don't have that communication with them, there's like a low morale, and it does affect probably out to the customers. Customers can see like, it can portray out to customer service.
Absolutely. I do want to emphasize what you just said about having a steady schedule. There's actually a bill that's been introduced into Congress that would, require that employers give people a steady schedule. Now, I don't think that's going anywhere in Congress, but it is a growing problem for workers. I was visiting my one of my sons this weekend, and his roommate has a job where they call him the night before to tell him what his schedule will be or whether or not he's going to work the next day. It's just like, how do you plan your life when, you only know the night before what you're going to work on? I mean, that's really...
Right, yeah. I mean, all my staff have like the same schedule every week. I mean, if they need to sub for each other, then they kind of work it amongst themselves. But I couldn't keep straight if if someone comes in this day, or if I have to cut someone hours. I realize that all my employees have bills to pay, and so it's important to, even if it's slow, if it's raining or it's snowing, there's some busy work that can be done that, will allow them to keep their wages.
In fact, there's a really great book out called Good Job Strategy, and one of the things they talk about is the importance in good employers is that they don't cut back staff every time there's a little bit of a slowdown, because in fact there are jobs that need to be done, whether it's filing or cleaning or that can be done well, and then people don't feel so harried on a regular basis. And so I think this concept of having a steady schedule and having people there even when times are a little slower is really important for morale and probably for the quality of business as well. So what advice, if you were talking to somebody who's starting up, what advice would you give them for making sure that they think about their employees as an integral part of their business?
I definitely think that, as a startup business, it is hard to pay significantly above minimum wage. So, you have to sustain your business for a while. But I definitely think, you need to reward employees. And if you want to grow your business, you want to invest in your business, you have to, pay above minimum wage, offer benefits. It's great that as my business, we separate ourselves from other restaurants. A lot of the restaurants don't, offer healthcare, 401k, all that stuff. So I think, for competitive reasons, it's great that we offer that. But, as a startup business, I think it's great if you start it, you have to start at minimum wage, but definitely increase it, to help your employees, offer some benefits, think of your employees as an investment into growing your business. And I think if you do that, it'll help you on the bottom line.
Well, and we are speaking today with Teresa Ging of Sugar Bliss Cake Boutique. Sugar Bliss Cake Boutique. And I can tell you, I went by the store and I couldn't control myself. I bought quite a few of those cupcakes, and they were absolutely delicious. But really, what struck me was the staff and the high quality of staff and their commitment to the work. And I think you've done that by being a good employer, and we need more of those good employers. Now, if you do not have one of those good employers and you find that you're not being paid for all your wages, again, we urge you to call our wage theft hotline, 391-8885 to learn more about how you can recover your wages. We are interviewing employers that have made a choice. And I think what's important is you don't have to do the low road. You can make some intentional choices to pay workers. So thank you, Teresa. Thank you to Sugar Bliss Cake Boutique for all you're doing. This is Good Work Chicago. Thank you.